got some swagger in him. But you guys were mentioning how good he is through the corners right now. They did dial in the suspension. They made it a little bit stiffer. It's supposed to help him out, and apparently it is so far.
Now, if they're going stiffer with the suspension and the chassis setup, that means because of the track getting rougher, okay, more pressure on the suspension coming down those hills, he'd be getting into a situation where the suspension is bottoming out. Watch right here. Yeah, he's going to get to the inside right here. Watch, he just nails that turn, leans the Suzuki over, and just edges out fellow countryman there from Australia, Chad Reed. Pretty intense riding right now for Metcalf. He looks really strong on the bike.
Now, Metcalf said he had injured his wrist in Supercross, and he said when he was doing his outdoor testing, he was not quite at 100% speed, and he thinks that that kind of misled him on some of the settings, because as the wrist got better and he started riding faster, that setup didn't work anymore. So this whole year has been somewhat of a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the faster that you ride the bike and the harder you ride it, the harder that you'll land, the harder that you'll drive the bike into the braking bumps and the acceleration bumps. So you'll have to firm up the suspension, right? Make it harder to press, you know, the bike down. The slower you ride it, the softer that it can be, the more plush that it would be. So faster you go, the stiffer it is.
Don't count Reed out, though. He wasn't the points leader, at least coming into this race, without good reason. He is one of the smartest riders in this game, and again, he knows how to measure the effort. Looks like he's going to camp out here on that rear fender of Metcalf and maybe launch an attack in the second half of this race. We'll see what happens. Can Reed run with Metcalf, or is he going to be bumped off the podium? Stay with us. Ryan Dungey trying to spoil the home track party for Ryan Villopoto. He is leading here in Moto number 2, and if he wins this Moto, he wins the day's overall victory. And it all came down to the start. That's why he has the lead. Let's give you the progressive whole shot replay. Jeff?
And the progressive restart at this point, because Villopoto had both whole shots leading into this, but this one, Dungey gets the wheel on him. I predicted, I told you, I think if Dungey gets out front, that is going to be the key to the race. So far, so good. That combined with the effort and the great ride that Dungey is putting in, he's got 12 minutes plus 2 laps on his way, if he can lock it down, to his 4th WASHUGAL overall in a row. 2 in the 250 class, 2008, 2009, and of course last year here in the 450 class.
And that 2008 win for Dungey at this track was his first ever in American motocross, and he did it in a very similar situation to this. He was out front. They had to get around Trey Canard, ironically enough. They got around Canard, he and Villopoto chased Dungey all the way to the checkered flag, but Dungey never made a mistake, didn't leave the door open, got that win, and really that launched his career to another level. And he's got a whole bunch of championships since then. Let's catch up here with Mike Alessi, who is in 7th. And again, Alessi was 2nd. He was splitting Villopoto and Dungey early until they had to red flag this race and restart it. So again, besides Canard, who is down and injured, if anyone had trouble by having the crash and the restart, it's Alessi. Because he might have been able to run for the podium today, but instead he's just looking to make his way up into the top 5.
Yeah, and Alessi has turned a 2:13.4 in this race. Right now, last lap around, he was a 2:15.7, so drop up the pace a little bit. And if you notice him, he's kind of searching around for some lines right now, trying to keep the motivation up. And it's difficult when there's no one in front of you, no one behind you, and you've got that gap. You know, you don't really have that motivation from another rider being around, as opposed to Andrew Short right here, who's got a lot of pressure here with Weimer, and looks like just behind Weimer is Albertson.
Short, one of his best races of the year in the first Moto today, finished 5th. Now he is up to 8th behind Alessi and right in front of Weimer, who's 9th, and Jimmy Albertson in 10th. Pretty impressive for Albertson right behind them. Transition from a Honda last week, and then real quick got a test ride with Valley Rockstar Yamaha. Did a test with him, and they put him on the bike for the race, so he's racing on an entirely different brand and team than he was 7 days ago, and he's in the top 10. There you see him on the blue.
Well, yeah, and Andrew Short is on a different machine than most other riders, too. He's riding a 350cc KTM. They actually have Mike Alessi on a 450, and so Short out here with a little bit lighter bike, a little more nimble, little less weight, but it also has 100 cc's less displacement.
Well, a lot of speculation about next year, just to add more drama to this title chase. KTM has admitted they are making a serious run to try to sign Ryan Dungey to this team next year. And
certainly sounds like a good move, good place to go.
Yeah, you would think the guy with the #1 plate who's winning the race might be one of the free agents you'd want to sign. They do like Andrew Short. They'd like to bring him back. He doesn't have a guaranteed contract to come back next year, but they do like him. But a lot of people wondering if they bring back Dungey, if they bring back Short, or even Alessi, will they be on 350s? Will they be on 450s? I guess time will tell. Right now, the 450 Kawasaki is right there against the 350 KTM of Short. And Aaron, what do you hear about Andrew Short?
Well, we already spoke about the rear suspension reservoir that the KTM team is running today, and so far it is working for Andrew Short. He said the bike feels completely different. It's got an entirely different feel to it. It's stiff, but it's working for him. But he said that he got his momentum back during that moto. It is the best moto of the season, and he's looking forward to continue on throughout the rest of this season.
And Andrew has been racing with some distractions. Certainly a get well soon to him and his wife Jackie, their son Hudson, who has had some surgery on Friday. Certainly we hope for the best for his team. But he's got to come out here and do his job, which is race on weekends, and doing a good job of it today with that 5th in Moto 1 and in the top 10 here. Let's go a little bit further back. We talked about Albertson on the 108 and the 592 of Jake Canada, who also was pretty much unsupported privateer early in this tour. Came out, rode well about a month ago in Colorado, and picked up a spot on the Moto Concepts Yamaha team.
So a couple of replacement riders here for each team on these on these teams, and I tell you, I mean, I never had to switch motorcycles during the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough enough just trying to be used to your bike, and the teams work so hard with the riders to make the practice bike, the race bike, the test bike, everything feel the same every time they get on the bike. In motocross, this is a type of sport where you have to ride. You have to be on the seat and get seat time to feel comfortable, because everything becomes so instinctual, and the bike becomes like a part of you, where you work as one with the machine. And so for these riders that are switching up bikes during the championship, that's really tough to do, to get used to that and to get that feeling, especially because the Yamaha being a completely different design machine than every other bike that's out there, it has a totally different feel.
A little bit further back, we see the 26 of Michael Byrne on the BTO Sports Butler Brothers Suzuki. And we saw his teammate, Jason Thomas, who is injured out with an ACL injury, but he is here today to help cheer his teammate on.
Yeah, and Michael Byrne actually just made a couple passes in the last lap or two, got past Simmons and Rookstool.
Then you've got Rookstool, 235, and then Ty Simmons, a young Australian on the J-Star JDR KTM. That's also a 350, right behind Nick Way, also on one of those Valley Rockstar Yamahas. And they're coming through that famous whoop section here, and behind them, the H67 of the Swede.
The Swede!
Yeah, Frederick Noren on the MX Heaven backed Honda. This is a good battle here.
It definitely is. And Nick Way, popular rider, veteran of the sport here, very popular around the pits in the industry. Found a great spot here with this team, but
Weimer won't give up.
He's looking for a spot.
Now, he was in front of Short at one point. Short got him, and Weimer wants that back. Here we go, up Horsepower Hill.
Now watch Weimer, bam, right there. He gets out of the roost, trying to get the horsepower from the 450 Cowie past that 350 KTM. I tell you what, though, the 350 looked pretty good up to Horsepower Hill. And I do think that this is the type of track where the 350 would perform very well, because it's not that deep, okay? There's not a lot of topsoil that drags the horsepower out of the engine, where you really need a lot of torque. If it's deep and muddy, the torque really pays off. But here, it's really hard packed. Horsepower would be the most important thing. And I spoke with Roger DeCosta earlier in the season, and he says, look, horsepower, we're there. It's the torque that we're having problems making, and that's just a displacement. You know, there's no replacement for displacement.
Yeah, and in Europe, KTM races that 350 bike with great success, and that was one of the things that almost confused the team. Why can that bike race heads up against 450s in Europe and not the U.S.? And some of the theories are because they prep the tracks differently here. Well, and when you dig that soil up deeper, what do you think?
Yeah, also, Yeah, well, let's take a look at our leader.
Let's take a look at Dungey, who's on a